So every commercial product, every new endeavor, whether it's an album, a book, a toy, a piece of software, it's an experiment. It's an experiment that is based on a set of hypotheses. Um, let's say it's a song. Your hypothesis is that people will enjoy the melody, will enjoy the vibe of this particular song, or they'll connect with the lyrics. You have several hypotheses and you think that those are the things that will make it successful. With the toy, your hypothesis is that this particular action or this particular, thing that you can do with the toy is fun, and therefore people will like to use it. And so everybody makes these hypotheses kind of implicitly, but maybe don't spend enough time examining what the actual hypotheses are and why we believe those. I feel like if you can be very clear about what you're actually testing, what you're experimenting with, it's easier to then get the results in, figure out what you need to change, if you need to change anything, and then adjust from there. And so today I'm going to talk about the 8 major hypotheses that I have as it relates to Outspoken, and kind of talk through each one. So the first one, the major hypothesis that caused me to actually start building Outspoken, was addressing the biggest issues with social media. And so hypothesis number 1 is that the biggest issues with social media boil down to harassment, trolling, misinformation, abuse. Pretty much those are the big ones. And so if we can eliminate these, the experience of social media would be a lot better. So the second hypothesis is that social media is missing nuance and accountability. Let's take accountability first. A lot of the issues I mentioned in the first hypothesis, misinformation, abuse, trolling, harassment, these are caused by lack of accountability. How many times have we heard or seen somebody say something on social media that they would never say to somebody's face? Literally thousands of times a day. And so how do we, fix that accountability issue? How do we make people more aware and responsible for what they're actually saying? The second point, nuance, is actually, I think, a lot more overlooked by the general public. A big reason that there is this, it feels like there's, internet mobs and there's fighting with each other. Everything has been condensed down to its smallest, spreadable unit. What I mean by that is memes have taken over. Memes not only just in photos, but the shortest possible snippet of something, a sound bite, a clip, that's become the story rather than all of the context around it. And the only way to combat that is to actually add more nuance, add more room for nuance, rather than having 140 or 280 characters to express some sort of complex thought. How do we expand that and allow people to actually express what they truly mean? So the third hypothesis is that video requires accountability. I'm here face to face with you. You can see exactly who I am. I can't hide behind a username, can't hide behind a blank profile photo. What I'm saying is coming directly from me. And it adds nuance. First of all, you hear my tone, which you can pick up a lot from. But at the same time, you get the full context of what I'm saying. It's not just a little, snippet. It's my entire thought process around whatever my opinion is. And I feel that solves a lot of the issues around nuance and forces accountability. The fourth hypothesis is that video accordingly solves most of those major issues that we said social networks and social media has, which are harassment, trolling, abuse, misinformation, echo chambers. All of these come down to this idea of, or all of these are caused by a lack of nuance and lack of accountability. And so video, which forces accountability and adds nuance, would presumably alleviate all of these issues. Fifth hypothesis, an algorithmic meritocratic feed removes an echo chamber and allows you to be exposed to a broad set of opinions. What I mean by that is most of our social feeds are curated by us. We follow certain people or we're friends with certain people, and those are the people that appear in our feeds. Those are the people whose content we see the most. Not necessarily a bad thing, but at scale, it becomes a constricting thing. It becomes something that you only see the same content over and over. That's what you become conditioned with. That's what you start believing and thinking. You don't expose yourself to any other type of information. And that's ultimately harmful to yourself. You're not allowing yourself to see what else is out there. TikTok actually has somewhat solved this by essentially having this algorithmic feed where you are exposed to people even that you don't follow with their For You page. You're seeing a lot of new content, a lot of people that you wouldn't normally see, and that allows on both sides kind of being able to see other types of viewpoints and kind of expanding your own reach. The sixth hypothesis is again related to the algorithmic feed, and this is on the content creator side. If I'm a first-time content creator and I have no followers on one of these social networks, I'll get no views, no likes, nobody interacting with my content. It's going to discourage me from even posting again. I'll just become somebody who watches things from now on. That's fine, but how do we encourage people to actually contribute? Well, you need to reinforce with positive feedback. We want somebody who, even their first time they post, they get some sort of attention, some sort of feedback. And so again, TikTok has done a really good job with this algorithmic feed where even if you're a first-time creator, no followers, this is your first time posting, it could be exposed to literally millions of people. All depends on the quality of your content. As they expose it to a small group of people, if it tests well with them, expose it to more people, and so on. That pattern continues, and you can, like I said, get to millions of people off your first post. And so that type of mechanism allows first-time creators and new people to the network to really feel compelled to actually contribute because they know that there's a high potential that they can get some sort of feedback. The seventh hypothesis is that memeable content is viral. What does that mean? That means that if you create something that allows people to riff off of one another, remix off of one another, if you will, that mechanism will allow content to spread a lot easier because everybody is not forced to create their own content from scratch. They can just repurpose somebody else's content. Retweets are obviously an example of this, but again, probably the best example at this point of this is TikTok. Again, they have these sounds. You can remix the sounds. A lot of the content on TikTok is people just using other people's sounds. In many cases, even using other people's kind of acts within their TikToks and just repeating those. And so if you create, that's called memeable content. If you can create memes, if you can create these actions that a lot of people are repeating, it makes it easier again for first-time creators or even existing creators to create more content because they're not forced to create from scratch. They can take what somebody else has done and just add their own flavor to it. And the final hypothesis is that multi-layered feedback is fun. What I mean by that is we like things differently. I like some things more than I like others. And yet on pretty much every social platform, you can either like something or not like it. It's binary. But again, that's not practical. That's not how we look at things in the real world. I like some cars more than others, some foods more than others, some people more than others. And as a result, we should be able to show that. If I appreciate somebody's opinion or video or something more than somebody else's, I should be able to show that. It's not just a yes or no type of thing. It's, yeah, I like this one little, I like this one a lot. And I don't think that's really been explored with social networks. So my hypothesis is that that's something that's missing and I think would be really fun if we could add that in. All right, so what did I get done this week? First off, finished the profile page. Not only the layout, but the functionality is now in there. Again, using the composable architecture, building this thing kind of module by module. Got the profile done, also got the activity feed done. So basically a list of all the rubies that you've gotten as well as all the rubies you've given away. We'll show this and kind of go more into it as we get closer, but yeah, finished those two. both the layout and the functionality. And the thing I left as a wild card, I actually thought through a lot of the UI, not from necessarily a layout standpoint, but fundamentally a lot of UI, especially with an app, is typography and iconography. So the font and the icons that you use. And so if you can pick a really good font for your brand, for what you're trying to express, for the app that you're trying to build, that's going to pay dividends, on every single page. Every single page has some sort of font, has some sort of text. And so you really want to make sure you pick an important font. We've done that. Spent a lot of time looking at fonts. I'll show you what my actual pick was. Was debating between a few, but next week we'll get into possibly what the final picks were and which one I actually went with. But I did decide on the final font, and started thinking about the different icons. Obviously, I have a base template. We'll have something to give rubies. We'll have something to reply. You have things like your profile icon, all of those. But at the same time, we want to make those specific to Outspoken, have a very clear visual language, have a very kind of cohesive set of icons that are memorable. The like icon wasn't always a heart. If you remember, the Facebook like icon was a thumbs up. The fact that Instagram made it a heart and now it's kind of universally a heart. I think those are the things that you want to think through as you're building a network. So what's next? What am I going to do this week? Well, I'll work on number one, push notifications. There won't be many. You'll get a push notification when somebody gives you a Ruby or somebody replies to one of your topics. But setting up that basic flow, the functionality for the actual push notifications, the permissions from the user to actually send them to them. Push notifications, obviously a great way to get users re-engaged, especially with something like this where it's conversational. People are replying to your topic. You want to see what they said. You'll be able to get that notification quickly. Second thing is Mixpanel. So Mixpanel is basically an analytics platform, a way to measure all of the activity within your app. So we'll be able to see new signups, how many people created clips, how many people replied, all of that. And so starting to set the foundation for that. Third, as always, wildcard. I'll leave it open and update you guys on that next week. As always, if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, comment, let me know. If you guys are working on something, I'd love to hear about it. Until then, I'll talk to you guys next week.